Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in to talk about My Hero Academia Season 5, Episode 11, I believe. First off, before starting, I gotta say thanks to everyone that watched last week's video. Ochako is a very interesting character to me, and I'm always very passionate to talk about this because this is going to be a very interesting case in the future, but we'll talk about that later. First, hey everyone. So we're going to go through the episode. I'm going to give you, I think, the more interesting points, and yeah, we'll call it a day. The first thing I want to talk about for the episode is the choreography for the second half. When the melee is going and you have like the actual physicality happening on screen, it looked really cool. I really appreciated it. Yeah, it's not special effects galore, but I'd rather the choreography over special effects personally. So I love that. I will tell you that one thing that the anime did to expand the material compared to the manga, because this only adapts 2 chapters. One thing the anime did was anytime that you saw a sequence where people were running through pipes or something like that, that was pretty much expanded, and they lingered on some stuff more. In the manga, where you could have one panel and a collection of flashbacks shoved into the panel. Yeah, the anime actually went through the flashbacks, and that's how they also were able to just pump up the screen. That's how they were also able to slow everything down. I personally really do not like that method of expanding material. I don't think it serves a purpose. I think even the episode had 2 instances of the same All Might flashback. Anyway, I don't think it serves a purpose, but the anime wants to do this type of pacing, so all the power to them. I did note that there were a few spots where they pretty much adapted things right from the manga. Like it was just pretty much the image. One of the good shots was Izuku using Black Whip to catch 2 pipes. That sequence didn't have much transition going towards it. It's unfortunate because the spots where the choreography was really good was in the physicality of people running around. But when you got into the special effects, they kind of stopped what they were doing there. A little bit unfortunate. But yeah, overall for choreography, from what I saw, I really enjoyed it, and I would like to see more of that if possible. I definitely like whenever an episode is super dynamic. Now, moving on from there, let's see. There's many talking points for the episode. What else can we touch on here? You know what? Let's go with Ochako. So Ochako's stuff really happens at the end of the episode. And guys, thanks everyone for last week. And I want to say thanks for Revenant for coming and asking me more about my opinion. But for the anime viewers, what I want you to understand with Ochako, as one of the last words here, is Ochako's the choice that was made with Ochako in the previous episode. To me, it seems like it's going to have long-lasting ramifications that are more likely to end in a vast majority of people feeling underwhelmed with Ochako as a character. Because Hero Academia is about hype, it's about escalation, and Ochako's character development is the antithesis to that. And the best example I can give you of the immediate effects of the author slotting Ochako with this rhetoric that she had in the previous episode about who is the one that saves heroes. I want you to look at this episode and see this line when Ochako's talking about why she saved Izuku. She talks about how she just had to do it, like she just kind of acted without thinking. This line should sound familiar when you're seeing it. It's the line that Izuku talks about. Heck, even Mina has had an experience like this when it came to her standing up against Gigantomachia in the flashback. And this is the crux of the matter. One, it's great that we're seeing Ochako finally have this development, but there is the problem. It's not breaking any new ground. And this will cause a fundamental disconnect with Ochako as we go into the future. And it's funny because after doing that video and chatting with other people, other commenters, I see people, and this is something that's been happening for a long time, saying that Ochako is boring, and some other people criticize Ochako for not being heroic enough. And it's like, are we looking at the same material? This is what she's intended to be. She's intended to be the most realistic character of everyone in Hero Academia. She's the one that's actually having a legitimate heroic arc where she finds her heroic identity and she adopts it. But that's the unfortunate side effect. Like a commenter sums up for me, Miguel. Ochako's only crime is being in Hero Academia, a series where she's surrounded by absolutely spectacular people. So, anime viewers, as you go into the future, keep that in mind. I want you to look back to this moment and think about how how this moment puts like a boundary around Ochako's potential. At the end of the day, what we're hoping for Ochako is that she gets to have a spectacular moment that elevates her in a similar way that it elevates Izuku, Bakugo, Shoto, or Ida. That's ultimately what we want to see out of her. But it's a little bit worrisome just knowing where we are in the manga, knowing what people's criticisms of Ochako sometimes are these days, knowing that some people are largely bored with the character. And even in this episode, it all comes back to the fact that Ochako saved Izuku. And as I was thinking about how Ochako wanted to be someone that saves people, and it's like he tells her she's matured, but even he knows that this isn't a he knows it isn't a groundbreaking thought because this is what all of them want to do. He even has a little speech about protecting people later on. Ochako is just getting to that point where she's realizing her heroic identity, right? And again, for Ochako, beautiful character arc. It's really well done, really realistic, but at the end of the day, it's going to cause a fundamental disconnect. All we can really say is that we gotta hope that it turns into something unique at the end, and not something that just serves to say that Ochako loves Izuku like that. That's the worst case scenario, and we just gotta cross our fingers and hope that doesn't happen. Right now, with the current Hero Academia trajectory up to chapter 315, Ochako's trajectory isn't the greatest. Anyway, moving away from Ochako, the next point of rhetoric that was really good, I think, was Monoma. So Monoma in this, Monoma's stuff is pretty ironic. Monoma in this episode talks about, he's not gonna be the kind of guy that can be a main character. His power isn't like that. He has a really good thing about, he's not going to hate his body for the quirk that he has, which is really good. I think he really should become a motivational speaker once he gets rid of some of his negative personality traits. But one thing I found really interesting was the line where he says there are supporting characters who outshine the protagonist, and this is pretty much the ideal that he strives for. So it's really interesting because this mechanism of supporting characters who outshine the protagonist, I know about it. I know about it quite a lot. It happens in Shonen Jump quite a lot. Now, the reasons why this phenomena happens in literature or in Shonen Jump a lot, it's pretty simple. For Shonen Jump, there's an overabundance of the type of character because in Shonen Jump, you usually have underdogs, and there's almost always going to be a character that comes in specifically to look amazing. Another fundamental problem is that because you're dealing with underdogs as the protagonist, and the protagonist has to grow, a lot of times the protagonist is super, super annoying, and there's an issue of overexposure on other main characters. But when you have a supporting character who outshines the protagonist, usually what happens is that character has such little screen time that there's not enough opportunity to actually sour people on the character. But here's the problem. Monoma will never be that type of character. Why? Because he's annoying. And also he's incompetent. One thing about characters or supporting characters that outshine the protagonist, like say Itachi from Naruto, who I know is overhyped, or let's say Urahara from Bleach. The thing about those supporting characters is they're the epitome of confidence and competence. They know what they're doing. They got like a relatively rich backstory. Monoma has already stepped in it pretty badly. Like he's the only person in class 1B that failed the exam back during summer festival. And here he's always so annoying. You don't see competence when you see Monoma. You always see him being the butt of the joke. You always see him getting attacked by Kendo. You always see him failing. You see him in just really bad spots. Unfortunately, he can never be this character that he wants to be at his current trajectory because he's just too annoying. So this is a little bit of an irony here in that in his pursuit to be the supporting character that shines the protagonist, just doesn't get there. He falls short. And it's really unfortunate. That said, his rhetoric about understanding that he can't be like other heroes and not hating himself for it, that's really good. He's making the best with what he has, but his personality traits prevent him from the ideal he wants to reach. The other person that has significant stuff going on in the episode is, of course, Shinso. Shinso has a big issue with his capabilities compared to the rest of the class, but it's obvious. Shinso only gets after-school lessons. Everyone else has been in actual life-and-death fights. It's okay, Shinso, and Aizawa tells him that much. Now, Aizawa says something really interesting to Shinso in general about what it is that people like him have to do. Let me just quote it here. To do something for someone else, even if you always prioritize that, you can't save other people. If you don't have the power to do something on your own, then you can't protect anyone else. Anyway, those lines are incredibly profound because this is something that has to be acknowledged. You need to be, you need to be at the most cutting edge that you're at, right? But there is also something about judgment that could be said here. You need to have good judgment. And what Aizawa is saying, like, even if you prioritize trying to save people, there's just some realities that you might not be able to overcome, and the best you can do at those moments is really just be good enough to be able to mitigate the damage. Like when it comes to heroics, a good part of it is knowing when a fight is out of your pay grade. Sometimes there are going to be times that a hero can't really run away, but you have to be at a point where, at the very least, if you can't run away, you have to be able to delay the worst outcome until someone else can come and help you. Like, yeah, it's a pretty bad deal in general, but this is the reality of the situation. At the end of the day, for people like Aizawa, Monoma, Shinso, judgment is important, and it's because of that judgment that when you see some kids getting really stubborn about trying to fight someone on their own terms or trying to beat someone in an area that they really have no way of ever beating them, because this episode actually does something really important about the reality of quirks. Quirks will determine your overall capacity in life. This isn't some kind of wishy-washy situation where you can do anything with the one weak quirk you have. People have to know how to properly judge a situation. Getting caught up on trying to fight someone on their turf, it's just not going to work out. And in those situations, you may not be able to succeed. That's why judgment is important for heroics. There is one character who I definitely think could stand to learn that lesson from these fights. But, let her continue her little pride, let her continue her little rivalry. We'll see where that takes her. I can tell you where it takes her. Nowhere worthwhile, because the author kind of forgets about her when he could have had a moment about it. But anyway, anime viewers, you'll one day reach that. I think maybe you'll reach that season 6 or season 7. It'll be interesting. But whatever. But anyway, what Aizawa said was really worthwhile. Is there anything else worth talking about for the episode? No, the main rhetoric. Oh, I guess Izuku. Izuku has a main rhetoric about, like, he's having a little bit of an issue with his quirks. He was being careful. He didn't want to go too crazy with Black Whip. He had a funny line, though, where I don't think I'll be able to find it because I don't think I screen capped it. But he had a funny line where he was saying, like, oh yeah, this is the kind of quirk I can tell. I won't be able to use it until I've mastered One for All fully. And I'm just thinking, yeah? Yeah, really, really. No, the author has a lot of little techniques where he sets up an expectation, and that expectation really only lasts for one arc. He just does it to kind of heighten the tension, and it's just valid for an arc usually. It's just funny seeing it here again. Now let's see other things. Ochako was really good for the episode in general. Like when she gets time devoted to her, she usually comes out really good. Like seeing her knock out Emily by just doing some martial arts and seeing Gunhead martial arts return, pretty great, pretty great. Any other things going on there? Ochako's little shipping moment with Mina, like questioning her, that was super cute. Like everything Ochako and Izuku was cute. They still get a lot of good moments. But yeah, it was a solid episode of Hero Academia that pretty much finishes up the Class 1A versus 1 fights. Now we still have some Slice of Life chapters left. I believe the next episode should still be Slice of Life. But I think that's going to be the episode that explains Monoma's issue. Oh, also with Monoma, it worth pointing out that Monoma, he doesn't have the ability to tell if he can use a quirk the moment he copies it. He has to wait till he tries to use it. That's when he usually finds out. But yeah, Monoma's explanation will come in on the anime, I think, next episode. But if you want, you can go see one of my videos. I put up one yesterday, or on Saturday, that explains the situation with Monoma. Anyway, overall, that was the episode of Hero Academia. We got some good things here. I'm excited. I'm excited to see the next half of the season, because that's where the action's going to be at. I think it's going to start at episode 13. Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.